Well, welcome back to Brands Hatch. We have just had the resumption and the finale of the Metzler National Superstock 600s. James Whittam's just popped out of the commentary booth to be with me. And James, a good cracking race, a good way to end the season. And once Glenn Irwin was out in front, it all sort of boiled down to a three-way tussle, or four-way tussle if you include James Easton. Right up until the end, they were bumping and barging each other out the way.
Yeah, to be honest, that is just about normal service for Superstock 6. They always beat each other up. It's a load of young kids, a full grid, they all want to impress. None of them's really learned the trade yet, but they're quick and they're all trying to look the part. And to be honest, conditions in the first start of that were treacherous from. But as it turned out, good racing, and pleased to see a bit of tussle on the last lap. Certainly, here we're going.
Well, this is Keith Farmer getting the presentation. He is the Metzler National Superstock 600 champ.
Yep.
He's out on the grid right now, ready for the thousands. But let's have Charlie Hiscock pick up the story. Charlie, it's yours.
Keith, you just won the British Superstock 600 Championship. I think you're going to get your trophy here. I'll hand over to Harley. Well done, Keith. Keith, you're normally out on a 600. You're riding the Superstock 1000 now. How's it going?
Yeah, we've been struggling all weekend, but hopefully we've got a new setup for today. We didn't really get to test it this morning warm because it's wet, but hopefully it should be okay.
You've had a couple of wildcard rides on this bike as well, so you're not a complete novice to it.
Yeah, not a complete novice, but it's just stepping back, no testing before this round. It's going to be a bit difficult, but hopefully we'll be there and score points at least.
Best of luck, helmet on. Cheers, mate.
Well, there we go then. Keith Farmer gets the trophy. Very well deserved. Keith Farmer been something of a star this year, dominant in the class, as you say, and really before this year, not done very much on road bikes at all.
No, he's had about half a season on the tarmac. He's been doing Supermoto before that, and he's been very quick at that, multiple Irish champion. And man Irishman attacked me verbally in a nice way at Oulton Park.
Attacked the pair of us.
Yeah, and said that this man, you've got to watch it. It's his first round. He's going to be really good. You've got to watch this Keith Farmer kid. And you get that all the time. You think, yeah, whatever. You've got bad breath, whatever. And you know what? It's come to pass. The guy was quick from the start. He won the first 4 rounds of the British Championship that he competed in.
Absolutely astonishing when a young rider like that comes through. And now he's taking part in the Superstock 1000s, getting a feel for that. The 1000 class, given the rule changes to BSB next year, James, so we lose a lot of electronics. We go down in power slightly, but we lose the electronics. This is more of a hunting ground for future talent than perhaps it has been before.
Absolutely, exactly right. The road bikes now are sort of gaining in technology. A lot of them coming through now. The ZX10, the S1000 BMW coming through with all the electronics on. They've got quick shifters, they've got some kind of traction control, anti-wheeler. And the Superbike rules are actually coming back to sort of meet that in some respect, So this is almost the nearest kind of family of class, if you like, the Superbikes now, and will be next year.
Here we go then, the breeding ground for talent for next year. New names coming through. It most definitely is. Let's get on then with the Metzler National Superstock 1000 race here at Brands Hatch. James Hayden sits alongside Jack Bernicle.
Already crowned champion Richard Cooper will start from pole position on the build-based BMW, and for company on the front row he's got Victor Cox and David Johnson and Danny Buchan, who's been struggling to realise the early season form he showed on the MSS Colchester Kawasaki. So we could be, with the weather just getting better all the time, conditions improving, this could be a good one. With one race left then out of the 12, Cooper already champion, Mini Cooper as he's fondly known, the little Nottinghamshire man. Second place for Danny Buchan, still by 14 points from Luke Quigley. And then in fourth place, Tristan Palmer ahead of Howie Mainwaring, who's crashed motocrossing, practicing, and cracked a couple of vertebrae in his back. Howie, we wish you all the best. Adam Jenkinson, he's fallen off his mountain bike and done his collarbone. He's not here. Victor Cox 7th, Jimmy Storer is 8th, Jason O'Halloran 9th, and Joe Burns 10th. 11th for John O'Howarth ahead of Marshall Neal, John McGuinness, Dan Johnson, Michael Booth, American Taylor Knapp, who made a dramatic strap of things at Silverstone ahead of Joe Dickinson, Gavin Hunt, Dave Johnson and Lee Costello. The starting grid looks like this: the build-based BMW of Richard Cooper on pole, the Black Horse Kawasaki of Wiltshaman Victor Cox in second place, David Johnson's BMW on third place on the grid ahead of Danny Buchan's MSS Colchester Kawasaki, Joe Burns on his Kawasaki, the teammate to Chris Walker, heads up row 2 ahead of Tristan Palmer, Joe Dickinson and Dan Johnson. Leon Hunt, Luke Quigley, Jason O'Halloran and Gary Johnson on row 3, Gavin Hunt, Taylor Knapp, Lee Costello and Keith Farmer on row 4. Farmer then has handed back his National 600 Super Stock trophy and rolls up into the end. And I don't believe it. Joe Burns, who was at the young Geordie, was so looking forward to this race. They'd sorted out starting procedures and glitches, and he was on the second row of the grid in 5th place, and his bike hasn't made it round the warm-up lap. So Joe Burns goes out, huge disappointment. Richard Cooper on pole, looking to win yet again, and it comes off the line really cleanly, staying well away from everybody else, but outstripped by Victor Cox. I think made a strong move into the first turn down Paddock Hill Bend. This race drastically reduced to just 8 laps, so it's a bit of a dash here for the Superstock 1000s, and Richard Cooper instantly threads his way through at Druids Hill corner and takes the lead.
Yeah, he wastes no time, Richard Cooper there. Great launch from Victor Cox. He got really nice sweep there and into 2nd spot. And he's been good these last couple of hours. He's really come on, Victor Cox.
So Victor Cox riding the Black Horse Kawasaki, backed by one of the headline sponsors of the series. Behind him, MSS Colchester Kawasaki's Danny Buchan, who looked so dominant earlier in the season. So too, of course, did the man in 4th place on the purple GB Motors Honda. Now 4th in the championship, Tristan Palmer.
And there's the man 3rd in the championship as well, Luke Quigley. So there's a battle going on for that 2nd and 3rd in the championship. Luke Quigley and Danny Buchan. As you say, Danny Buchan. He says he's really happy with his bike setup. Oh, big crack! That's Richard
Cooper's
Cooper
gone down.
Oh no,
it's Pilgrim's drop.
Oh,
my goodness, how did that happen? So Cooper went actually down through Dingle Dell, in Dingle Dell before Sheen Curve.
Wasn't Dingle Dell, it was before. It was coming out of Hawthorns.
No, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It was down Dingle Dell coming out of Westfield he went down. Wow, that was a big one. So perhaps it's still slightly damp, kind of under the trees at the back of the circuit there.
Well, safety
we'll have
car's
to check out. The safety car will come out. There was a much heavier fall for whoever came down behind Richard as he jumped onto his feet.
Yeah, it looked a bit like a Badgett's bike, but I'm not 100% certain on that. There's a big old crash there. Big old crash there. Oh,
what?
No,
that's going on.
That is. No, they're going to. Oh, that's.
So we're on we're having we're certainly having some chaos here at Brands Hatch at the final round of the British Superbike Championship. Looks like there's been a collision on the Brabham Straight. The red flags are immediately out. Victor Cox had led the way round at the end of that truncated first lap. So at the moment we've got a couple of fallers round Dingle Dell, and we have a couple of fallers and a collision on the main straight. I don't know what's happened there, but that's been a drastic crash. So that's happened on the main straight. We've got a red flag out, and the medics immediately in attendance. And that's headed up towards the entrance to Paddock Hill Bend. The red flag is out, so the Metzler National Superstock 1000 Championship race in association with Black Horse comes to an abrupt halt, and we've got general chaos here on the third. It's on the rise up towards the entrance to Paddock Hill Bend where that collision's occurred, James.
Yeah, what's happened there is we haven't seen the incident itself, but they've been coming together before we get there down the straight, as you say, and whether someone's backed off. There's a very, very messy looking number 67 there, which is Freddie Pett.
That's Freddie Pett from Kings Lynn. So that's the Dales Racing Honda that's laid out there. So Freddie Pett, one of the two fallers on the main straight. We'd already lost Richard Cooper and another on the down Dingle Dell. There was a heavy fall going down through Dingle Dell as well after Cooper had picked himself up. So in a beautiful sunny day here, we can't blame the weather, except perhaps for the fact that we've had that strange seepage of dampness up through the tarmac that Neil Mackenzie and James Whittam had a chat about in our commentary booth here earlier. How tricky that makes life when the stuff kind of seeps back up through the tarmac. There's one young man who's all right. And there's obviously been a coming together. Either he's been part of the coming together, or he's been seen it happen in front of him. So there's one of the terrific medics who are around this place, looking after any of the riders that have a mishap round here. I was talking to one of them who'd never seen a motorcycle race at all before he arrived yesterday, and when Shaky Byrne went by as we were watching practice at the bottom of the hill into Graham Hill Bend, he was actually incapable of speech for a while. He was so astonished at the speed of the motorcycles. So at the moment we're checking out this young fella. There's Richard Cooper, unharmed, down at the top, just at the top of Dingledell. But there was another bike that went down there as well. We know
that's actually his first mistake of the year. He's finished every single race. So
and that's what made it such a shock.
Yeah, exactly. He's won the championship with a round to spare, and he comes here and he makes his first mistake of the year. But luckily he's okay, we didn't see who the other rider is there. So.
At the moment, the order before I guess they would line up again when we have a rerun of the race. Victor Cox, Danny Buchan, Tristan Palmer and David Johnson would run the front row of the grid. They're the top 4. And behind them, Luke Quigley, Joe Dickinson and another of the Johnsons. I get them all mixed up. Gary Johnson from Broughton in Lincolnshire has moved over, of course, the TT winner, has moved from the Super Sport class to the Super Stock. He's running 7th. And behind him, number 35, Gavin Hunt from Braddon Bridge on the SR John Allsop BMW. He would round out the second row of the grid ahead of Jason O'Halloran. Is that a number 9 on that motorcycle, James? That would mean it would be Marshall Neal, the experienced Ulsterman from Portadown with his GR Aprilia, has also been involved in that mighty clash. So Marshall Neal, the other rider involved in the collision along the main straight. Let's hope that he's okay. Certainly the Aprilia isn't. So lots of more cleaning up for these hard-working marshals out there on this very, very muggy and warm, mild day. Much, much milder than it's been the last 2 days here. Complete change around in conditions here at Brands Hatch, down in the Garden of England, in the 61st year of racing here since motorcycles first appeared. Look at that. We're 21 degrees. That was forecast, actually, as a possibility for the southeast of England. Track temperature close to 30 degrees. That's pretty good, James. 30 degrees. Yeah. Comfortable riding conditions.
It's very good. I mean, conditions are good. The wind's dropped away. It's, for October at this time, it's very good. So that.
And we've just had an announcement, James, that the Superstock 1000 National 1000 race has been cancelled, simply because we're running out of time. And of course, this championship has been completely decided. It is the only one, the remaining races that we have to run for championships that have not yet been decided. The 125 GP race, the British Supersport and British Superbikes.
Well, you can understand it, but that is extremely disappointing for the guys involved, especially if you're dicing for second or third, as Buchan and Quigley are, Palmer there. Lots of people there, but it's a difficult call, but it's one that they've had to make, unfortunately.
One thing I always find rather entertaining about this particular race, James, is that John Crockford, always the Southampton man, always makes an appearance here, right? He is number 50. He was a regular way back in your day on the British Superbike scene. He was running 16th.
Yeah, he was, and he's a good old boy, is John. And another guy we'd be disappointed is Daniel Johnson, number 86, who was qualified in 8th. And he did a really good job on that Kawasaki. He was flying this weekend, so he'll be disappointed with that.
So this National Superstock 600 1000cc race is cancelled. The next race will be the Sunoco British 125 GP Championship race.
Well, there we go then. Talk about your eventful days. Obviously, nobody likes to see big crashes, and we hope that everybody involved is okay. We will naturally bring you updates on their conditions and the medical treatments they are receiving as and when we get them throughout the rest of this afternoon. But whilst we've got a bit of downtime, so to speak, I'm joined by Jack Valentine from Samsung Crescent Suzuki. Jack, you're the boss. You're the big man. You're the man who it all comes down to at the end of the day if you win the title. So, John Hopkins, what happened?
Yeah, we had an electrical malfunction. Guys are still working on it. A sensor went down, and like many times when Witt's commentating, he's always on about switching it off like you would on your home computer, and that's what John had to do. He had to switch it off, let it reset itself, and then that was absolutely fine. So we've traced it to a particular sensor, but we're going to change a few more as well, and we should be fine for this next one.
And how long does that switch off and switch on again procedure take? Because I'm sure when you're a rider on the back, a racer on the back of a bike, it seems like it's going on forever. But in reality, how long does that take, Jack?
Well, it's seconds really, but I mean that's all you need. I mean, by the time the guys pull the bike up and wondering what the hell's going on with it, and then decided to switch it on and off, I mean the guys are almost coming around on the next lap. So it's basically seconds, but it's costing you well into the minutes, and we're just pleased we got it going again. And the bike was running fine, as you saw. John's put it on the front row of the grid, came through, and we're still holding the lead, which is the main thing.
Front row of the grid, 2 points now separate John Hopkins from Tommy Hill. We couldn't have written a better script for the last race, as we're about to go into. But let's just go back to the scrap between your former rider, Tommy Hill, this was yesterday, of course, and John Hopkins. And what was going through your mind as they came in to tussle on the last lap, last corner?
Sorry, say that one again. You're about John Hopkins or John Kirkin?
John Hopkins and Tommy Hill, your former rider and your current rider. And here we go, coming down. This is into the last lap. What's going through your mind at this point? Bearing in mind we're live, Jack, so you can't swear.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of just keeping at it, keeping getting stuck in, and you're not too worried, because I mean, BSB, it's like this every weekend, and you sort of get used to it, to be honest, Tony. You always want your guy to win. And I was so pleased how Hopper responded there by taking Tommy back going into Surtees, and just really showed he means business.
You know the guys very well. This is Tommy diving up the inside of John here. John, cool head though, as Tommy ran wide. John straight up on the inside, and it must have been a good sensation for you to see him riding as well as that. But also with Tommy, you know him very well. You ran him last year. You know that neither of these riders are particular hotheads in that sort of situation. Is that right?
Absolutely, but I mean, they both want to win races, and Tommy went in there, probably his last chance to get John, and as soon as his leg comes off the foot pegs, Tommy's getting near the limit, but John squared it off nicely, and the Crescent horsepower did the rest.
The Crescent horsepower, I love that. Let's talk about strategy then for the next race. 2 points between it. What do you do between the two riders? What do you do? Do you follow Tommy Hill? I spoke with Paul Denning earlier on, and he said you've just got to go out there and really race. Is that what Hopper's going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going to do, just go out and try and win the race. I mean, that was the plan in the last one. There's not a lot more we can do. I mean, obviously, if there's any incidents out there or we have issues, hopefully we don't. We'll take it as it comes, and we've got the necessary boards there to signal to John what's going on with Tommy. But I mean, I think what's actually happened now, it's probably made it a little bit easier on both riders, because both riders are just going to have to go for it. Well, when you're carrying a reasonable points lead, you're having to make strategies, and you're thinking about where you can finish, where you can't finish. But now it's just a straight race, and it's going to be a good one. You've been in this situation before. You don't want to go through that like it played out last year again, do you? No. I mean, like I say, BSB, it's a competitive series. We're doing it week in, week out. Okay, this is for the championship for sure, and I want to win the championship. I know John wants to win the championship, and so does Tommy. But I mean, it's going to be the best man who wins it, and crowds are in for a treat. It has been a pleasure this year watching your riders out there. John Kirkham as well on an absolute flow in that last race. Thanks for talking to us, Jack. Really appreciate that. Pleasure. There we go, Jack Valentine, team manager of Samson Crescent Suzuki. Let's hear now from Michael Rutter, another firm favourite here in pit lane. Charlie Hiscott is with him.
Michael, we saw your bike smoking in the first race earlier on. What's the situation at the moment? Is it ready to go for race 2?
Yeah, it was just a simple thing. We found it just annoying, I felt comfortable. I thought we could move up, and get the rapid little Batham's bike up there.
It's easy for you to say.
Very. But yeah, just, everything was going well, and then I had a flag come out, get in, so absolutely gutted, because he's put me right back on the grid, and I think on the 4th, 5th row, and it's going to be hard now, everyone's on it, and you need to be on those first 2 rows to have any chance at all, really. But anyway, we'll do our best. You never know what can happen.
There's been a lot of talk about the accident you had with Josh Brooks at Cadwell Park, and what's motivating you this weekend?
It's hard, really, because those boys are there going for the championship, and we're just trying to get everyone happy for next year and keep the sponsors happy and do all that. But it does take it out of you, and I think you don't ride exactly like you would be if you're going for the championship. It was just a shame, really. I think we could have been in the top 6. I'm not saying we could have gone and won it, but I mean, we would have had a real good go, and it'd have just finished the season off perfectly, and it was no fault of my own, just got taken out, and just the worst part about it, really, just don't seem to be too bothered about it. You know, if racing, you know, I've taken people out over the years, and you know, you hold your hand up and just wish, you know, they did in a way.
Of all the tracks we've been to this year, it seems to be brands that you really seem to gel with. You really go well. You go well in qualifying here, go well in the races. What's the key to a fast lap round here?
It all depends on what bike you're on. You know, you've ridden some bikes here and you think, God, you come to brands and you think, oh my God, the Ducati suits a Ducati, like long flowing corners, you know, anything like that. What we struggle with the Ducati is slow, like first, second gear corners. Coming out of Druids, it's really struggling a bit to follow the four cylinders out of there, and then the bottom bend coming out of there, it's very much the same as well. So it's Ducati suits it, and I like this track because there's no stop and go really. They're putting all these horrible chicanes into tracks, and then, you know, all the best racing at tracks like this, you know, Thruxton, you know, Alton Park used to be brilliant till they put, you know, a stop and go sign in there, and you know, if they could take these bits out, you know, obviously they've got to do it for safety, but you know, they need to make the racing interesting. We've seen some of the best, you know, Supersport racing's been fantastic, you know, and that's what the track should be like.
Thanks very much, Michael.
Thank you. Cheers.
So there we go then, Michael Rutter with his forthright opinions, as you would come to expect from Michael Rutter. He really is one of the favourites of the paddock, though. A very funny guy, especially when you get him away from motorcycles. Very dry wit, has the Eeyore of the paddock, and we'll be hearing from him a bit later on today, no doubt. Right, we're going for a short break, but when we come back, we'll have a bit more racing action to bring you. We'll see you with that when we return.